The chosen one. The storm raged inside you. A silent war between the part of you that dreams and the part that fears the cost of becoming what you were meant to be. You heard it again, the voice, neither loud nor soft, but infinite. Hold your vision close, it whispered. Do not let the world touch what has not yet bloomed. You stood in the dim light of your room, staring at the fragments of your ambitions scattered like constellations across your thoughts. The urge to reveal your dreams burned within you, to tell the world who you were becoming, to feel seen, to feel validated. Yet something deeper warned you. You sensed that the moment you exposed your vision too soon, it would no longer belong entirely to you. In the silence, you realized that every dream is a seed, and seeds die when exposed to too much light too early. The silence before becoming. You began to understand that silence is not weakness. It is sacred preparation. The greatest builders, the prophets, the innovators, they all hid their visions in the womb of quiet until the world was ready to see them. You felt it, the paradox of restraint. The thrill of creation met the fear of obscurity. What if no one saw you? What if your silence was mistaken for insignificance? But the truth echoed again. What grows in shadow does not need applause to become real. You breathed deeply, and in that moment, you knew your discretion was not cowardice. It was protection. The unseen work was your covenant with destiny. The temptation of exposure. There came days when your excitement became unbearable. You wanted to shout your plans from the rooftop, to announce your purpose to those who doubted you, to prove that you were more than they thought. But you remembered how fragile beginnings could be. You saw others who had shared too early, their ideas dissected, their spirits crushed by mockery or envy. You watched as their light dimmed under the gaze of those who could not understand it. So you waited. You guarded your flame. You turned your energy inward and let patience become your weapon. You learned that secrecy is not deceit, it is sacred strategy. The masters of destiny never reveal their blueprint before the temple is built. The war within. Yet doubt returned. It always does. You asked yourself, what if my silence keeps me unseen forever? What if the world forgets me before it ever knows my name? And then you remembered the greatest revelations arrive, not in noise, but in divine timing. When the world needs your voice, it will hear it. When your creation is ready, no gate can stay closed. You began to understand that the voice of impatience is the voice of fear disguised as ambition. So you fought it with stillness. You let your silence become thunder, the sacred circle. You learned to choose your confidants carefully, those rare souls who listen without jealousy and speak without agenda. You realized that not everyone deserves to see your process. Your inner circle became sacred ground. You no longer sought validation through exposure. You sought alignment through intention. Those who were meant to walk with you could sense your vision without you ever needing to explain it. In a world obsessed with oversharing, you became the enigma, the one whose calm unsettled the loud. Your silence became your power, the unseen power, and one morning, as you worked quietly, something shifted. The dream that once seemed fragile began to take shape. The lines, the details, the rhythm of it, it was alive. Not because the world saw it, but because you refused to abandon it when no one else believed. You understood then that real manifestation does not demand attention. It demands devotion, and devotion requires privacy. When others flaunted progress for applause, you chose patience for mastery. You learned that public recognition is fleeting, but self-mastery is eternal. You realized the truth the world remembers, not the noisemakers, but the architects of silence, the ones who built unseen until the day their creation could no longer be ignored. The revelation. That night, as you lay in stillness, you heard the whisper again. Do not fear being unseen, it said. The unseen is where destiny breathes. And in that moment, you smiled. You no longer feared obscurity, you embraced it. Because you understood that every seed must die in darkness before it can rise in bloom. The world would see your light, but only after you had mastered the night. You rose from your bed with quiet certainty. The storm within had not vanished, it had simply found rhythm. You were no longer a seeker of validation. You were becoming a guardian of destiny. Your silence was not emptiness, it was becoming sacred space. And you knew that when your time came, the unveiling would shake the world, not because it was loud, but because it was inevitable. You looked at your reflection, calm, steady, mysterious, and for the first time, you recognized it. It was not weakness. It was power refined by patience. If you feel this truth, hit like and subscribe. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign of your divine alignment. Because your silence is not your absence, it is your preparation. And soon, the world will know the power of what was born unseen. The chosen one, the silence that once protected you, has now become your battlefield. What was once a sanctuary of creation has turned into a mirror that reflects every doubt, every fear, every whispered accusation that says you are not enough. They began to notice your quiet. They called it arrogance. They mistook your restraint for weakness. And so, the world that once ignored you now resents you for your composure. In their eyes, your stillness is rebellion. Your calm is defiance. And deep within, you begin to wonder, have you chosen the wrong path? The noise of the world. Everywhere around you, the world is loud. People shout their triumphs, display their wounds, and disguise their insecurities as confidence. The louder they become, the more invisible you feel. You scroll through endless faces shining with forced perfection, and you start to question your own silence. Maybe they are right. Maybe the world only listens to the loud. Your heart grows heavy. You are tempted to speak, to prove yourself, to join the chorus of noise. But the whisper returns. Faint yet unyielding, do not trade your authenticity for attention. And suddenly you remember the light that burns too fast, leaves nothing but ashes. The test of faith. The test does not come in thunder. It comes quietly, through rejection, misunderstanding, and the absence of applause. You give your all, yet no one seems to notice. You sacrifice sleep, comfort, peace, yet still, your name remains unspoken. And so, faith begins to fracture. You wonder if divine timing is just another way of saying delay. You wonder if patience is just disguised punishment. You stare at your unfinished work, hands trembling, and whisper to the darkness, "Why me? Why now? Why silence?" The air feels heavy, as if the heavens themselves have turned away. But deep within the stillness, something flickers, a truth that refuses to die. You realize that faith is not proven when everything works. It is proven when nothing does. The shadow of doubt. Your friends begin to drift away. They do not understand your quiet persistence. They ask why you hide your progress, why you do not share your victories, why you isolate yourself in a world built on visibility. You cannot explain that you are protecting something sacred. You cannot tell them that revealing it too soon would destroy its purity. So you smile and say nothing. Inside, the silence cuts deeper. But even as it hurts, you sense its necessity. The seed cannot explain its solitude to the soil. It can only grow. And yet, doubt lingers like smoke after fire. You start to question your own motives. Am I disciplined? Or am I afraid? Am I wise? Or am I hiding? The truth feels slippery. Your mind wages war against your calling. But destiny does not beg for belief. It waits for surrender. The betrayal. Then comes the moment that breaks you. Someone you trusted takes what was never theirs. They twist your words, reveal your unfinished vision, mock your dreams in the open. You feel naked before the world. Everything you had built in quiet exposed. Anger rises like a tide. You want to fight, to shout, to demand justice. But the whisper comes again. Colder now, sharper. Let them reveal themselves. You stay unseen. You take a breath and choose stillness. Not because you are weak, but because revenge cannot rebuild what betrayal destroyed. Only grace can. And so, you let them speak while you work. You let them laugh while you rise. You let their noise fade into echoes while your silence becomes substance. The awakening. Days pass. Pain becomes teacher. Doubt becomes discipline. You begin to see what you could not before. Discretion was never about hiding. It was about protecting the purity of creation until it could withstand the world's misunderstanding. You realize now that your silence is not isolation, it is incubation. You are not unseen, you are becoming. The weight begins to lift. You start working again, but differently this time. There is less fear, less noise inside your mind. You understand that every delay has been construction. Every unanswered prayer has been preparation. The storm inside you begins to settle, and in its place grows something stronger than belief, knowing. You no longer need validation. You no longer crave recognition. You simply trust the rhythm of your becoming, the turning point. And then, one quiet night, something extraordinary happens. You feel it not as sound, but as vibration. The whisper that has followed you through every dark night now feels like light. It says, "The ones who mocked your silence will soon hear your echo." In the first, you close your eyes, and in that moment, you understand that destiny does not arrive with applause. It arrives in stillness, like dawn breaking over a restless sea. You smile again, not the smile of victory, but of surrender, because finally, you understand that the world does not need to understand you. Only you must understand the calling. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign of your divine alignment, because what is hidden now will soon be revealed, and what the world ignored will one day be impossible to forget. The silence is not ending, it is transforming. The chosen one is awakening, and the world has no idea what is coming. The chosen one, the silence that once guarded you, now feels endless. It stretches into the horizon of your days, swallowing sound, color, and certainty. You wake up and wonder if you are still on the right path, or if the path ever existed at all. The world moves on. Others rise, others shine. Their names echo through the spaces you once dreamed of filling, and you still waiting, still building, still believing begin to feel invisible even to the heavens. This is not the silence of preparation anymore. It is the silence of the desert of doubt. You wander through days that all feel the same. Each morning you ask the same question. What if I was never chosen? Faith becomes heavy, a weight instead of a wing. The divine whisper that once guided you has grown faint. You call to it in prayer, in tears, in rage, but it answers with nothing. Only wind, only distance. You begin to wonder if you misunderstood everything. Maybe the calling was never divine. Maybe it was just the voice of your own longing dressed as purpose. And yet, even as your faith cracks, you cannot walk away. Something deeper than belief keeps you moving, a strange loyalty to the unseen, to the possibility that all this suffering still means something. You keep walking, the mirage of meaning. In the distance, you see mirages of success. People you once guided now stand where you wanted to be. They say, "You should have spoken sooner." They say, "The world does not wait for the quiet." Their words pierce you. You think of all the times you could have chosen exposure instead of silence, noise instead of stillness, shortcuts instead of patience. Regret whispers. Fear joins in. You feel surrounded by voices not your own. And then, somewhere deep within, another voice stirs, not the divine whisper, not yet but your own. It says, "If I lose everything, I will not lose myself." You stop walking. For the first time, you are not running toward destiny or away from pain. You are simply standing in the truth of your exhaustion, your humanity, your hunger for meaning. And in that stillness, something shifts. The collapse and the revelation. One night, overwhelmed by the emptiness, you finally break. You fall to your knees, fists clenched, whispering to the darkness, "If you are there, show me something. Anything." No thunder answers. No light splits the sky. But something happens in the quiet. A tear falls not just from your eyes, but from your soul. And when it touches the ground, you feel it, the faint pulse of life beneath the dust. The desert was never empty. It was waiting for your surrender. You realize then that the divine never left. It was simply silent so you could hear yourself. The lesson was not in the miracle, it was in the waiting, the rebirth of faith. You rise again, but not as before. You no longer pray for signs, you pray for strength. You no longer chase visions, you embody them. Faith becomes something new, no longer a fire of certainty, but a quiet flame that survives the wind. You understand that belief without doubt is illusion. To truly believe, you must have first faced the silence of not knowing. You whisper to yourself, maybe faith is not about being sure. Maybe it's about choosing to continue, even when the voice is gone. And in that realization, the whisper returns not above you this time, but within. You were never abandoned. You were being emptied so that I could fill you. You fall still. Tears flow not of sorrow, but of recognition. The divine had not disappeared. It had moved inside you. The spark of rebellion, From that night on, something awakens in you. It is not arrogance, not pride, but defiance against despair. You decide that if the world will not hear your silence, you will make your silence louder. You begin to act, not for attention, but for alignment. Every choice becomes a declaration of faith, every breath a rebellion against doubt. You work again, quietly but fiercely. You are no longer afraid of being unseen, because you have seen what lives in the unseen. Your power is no longer waiting to be revealed, it is already moving through your hands. The new fire. One morning, the same people who dismissed you begin to notice. They sense something different, a calm fire, an authority that does not shout. They cannot define it, but they feel it. You no longer explain yourself. You no longer chase recognition. You have become something else, entirely an embodiment of faith that has passed through death and risen as knowing. And though your journey is far from over, you now understand the rhythm of it. You know that every silence hides a lesson. Every desert conceals a revelation. Every delay refines the soul it was sent to shape. You look at the horizon, and it no longer feels distant. It feels alive, waiting, listening. You whisper one last time, not in desperation, but in declaration. I am ready. If you feel this truth, hit like and subscribe. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign of your divine alignment, because the desert is not your end. It is the place where destiny learns your name. And the chosen one, now reborn, has begun to walk again. The chosen one. The dawn you prayed for has finally come, yet it feels heavier than the night. The silence has broken. The world has begun to notice you, and the path that once seemed invisible now unfolds beneath your feet. But light is not always gentle. Sometimes it burns before it blesses. You rise from the desert with dust still clinging to your hands, your heart pulsing with both awe and caution. You thought illumination would bring peace, but it brings exposure instead. The shadows you hid from are gone, yet so are the places to hide. The divine voice that once whispered through darkness now echoes through everything you do. And with that echo comes a new kind of trial, the weight of being seen, the weight of light. At first, the recognition feels intoxicating. The same world that ignored your silence now praises your voice. The same people who doubted you now seek your approval. And for a moment, you feel powerful, almost divine. But in quiet moments, you sense the danger. Pride comes softly, disguised as gratitude. Applause feels like validation, but beneath it, you feel something trembling your humility. You begin to ask yourself, was I seeking purpose or praise? You remember the desert and its brutal silence, the voice that once told you that what is sacred must be protected. And now, as attention surrounds you, you realize how easily visibility can corrupt purity. You are learning that the brighter the light, the longer the shadow it casts. The return of temptation. With success comes the whisper of temptation, the subtle pull to perform rather than serve, to impress rather than create. They tell you to speak louder, to reveal more, to give the world a story it can consume. And slowly, you feel the world trying to turn your purpose into spectacle. You stand before mirrors of illusion, where every reflection shows you a version of yourself molded by expectation. And in those reflections, you begin to lose sight of the quiet soul who once knelt in the desert, begging for a sign. You hear it again, the faint, steady voice within. Remember why you began. The mission was never about fame. It was about faith. You close your eyes, and in that stillness, you see the truth. The journey that began in darkness can only survive the light through humility. The mirror of the soul. You start to see the difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence serves the calling. Arrogance serves the self. So you retreat once more, not into isolation, but into alignment. You rediscover the value of quiet even while standing in the center of attention. You learn that discretion, once born of fear, now becomes your discipline. You speak less. You listen more. You measure every word not for its cleverness, but for its clarity. Those around you do not understand. They call you distant, mysterious, detached. But you know what? They cannot see the higher you rise, the more sacred your silence must become. Because divine purpose is not sustained by applause, it is sustained by alignment. The fall within the rise. Then comes the test you never expected, a small failure, a misstep, a moment of pride disguised as confidence, and suddenly, the same world that praised you turns its gaze cold. You feel it again, the sting of rejection, the whisper of self-doubt, the familiar ache of being misunderstood. You ask yourself, how could I have fallen again after all I've learned? But the voice within answers, because learning is not the end, it is the beginning of remembering. You realize that humility is not something you attain once and keep forever. It must be practiced daily, renewed in the fires of failure. Every fall is a return to truth. Every stumble is a summons to shed what you have outgrown. And so, you stop seeing failure as punishment. You begin to see it as purification, the light within the light. You start to recognize that true light does not come from the outside world. It does not depend on praise, position, or perception. It radiates from within, silent, steady, and unshaken by circumstance. You begin to walk differently now. There is a calm to your presence that cannot be explained. You no longer chase opportunity. You attract alignment. And though the world still clamors for your attention, you no longer need its validation. You have become what you once sought: illumination grounded in humility. You start to guide others quietly, not by instruction but by example. Some follow, some misunderstand, but it no longer matters. You know now that leadership is not control, it is clarity. And clarity requires silence, the revelation of light. One evening, as the sun fades into gold, you stand alone once more, this time not in the desert, but on the mountain you once dreamed of reaching. The view is breathtaking, but your eyes do not seek the horizon, they turn inward. You realize the entire journey from the first whisper to this moment was never about reaching the light, it was about becoming the light. You smile, not in pride but in reverence, because you now understand the paradox. The closer you move to divinity, the less you need to prove anything at all. The true chosen ones are not those who shine the brightest, they are those who can hold the light without being blinded by it. You close your eyes, whisper to the wind, "May my silence remain my strength, even here." And the voice within answers, "Now you understand the weight of light is the price of grace." If you feel this truth, hit like and subscribe. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign of your divine alignment, because the light you carry is not meant to dazzle, it is meant to awaken. And the chosen one, once hidden in the dark, now learns to walk within the fire unburned. The chosen one, you thought the storm was behind you, that after the silence and the light there would finally be peace. But peace, you now learn, is not the end of the story. It is the moment before the fracture. The voice that once guided you has grown distant again, not silent but different. It no longer comforts, it tests. It no longer directs, it questions. You begin to wonder if the divine plan is shifting or if you are the one who has changed. There are no enemies outside you now. The battle is within the clash between obedience and authenticity, between destiny and desire. This is the fracture of the chosen. The voice of doubt returns. It begins quietly. A thought, a tremor in the mind. What if I am not chosen but cursed? You remember every sacrifice, every loss, every night spent believing in a promise that now feels more like punishment. You had been told that surrender would bring clarity, but instead it brings chaos. The clearer your vision becomes, the more fragile it feels. You begin to see cracks in everything, the mission, the message, even the voice itself. You whisper to the emptiness, "Why lead me here only to break me again?" The answer comes not in words, but in absence, and it cuts deeper than any sound. You start to see the truth no one told you. Every chosen one must doubt the very voice that called them, because only through doubt can faith become real. The mirror of the mission. You begin to see your reflection not as a savior, but as a vessel, flawed, human, tired. You once believed your calling would elevate you above pain. Instead, it has magnified it. You see followers who misunderstand your words, twisting them into things you never meant. You see those who once stood beside you turning away, calling your humility weakness, your wisdom madness. You want to defend yourself, to speak, to explain, but the whisper that remains says, "Let misunderstanding become your teacher." And so you stay silent again. Though now your silence is not protection, it is surrender. You realize the divine path is not a straight road of light. It is a labyrinth designed to break every illusion you have about yourself. And only those who lose themselves completely can find what was eternal within them all along. The breaking point. One night, exhaustion wins. You no longer pray, you demand. You no longer bow, you confront. You raise your voice to the heavens, your heart split open by fury. I have given everything. My trust, my silence, my light. What more do you want from me? The wind howls in answer, empty and vast. But then, within that emptiness, you hear something new, your own voice, echoing back, stronger than before. It says, you were never meant to serve the voice. You were meant to become it. You fall to your knees, trembling. The truth feels both liberating and terrifying. All this time, you thought the divine spoke from above, but now you realize it has always been speaking through you. The paradox of purpose. You begin to question everything. If the divine lives within, then what does it mean to be chosen? If destiny is written through your own choices, is it still destiny or simply courage wearing another name? You start to see that the calling was never about obedience. It was about awakening. The voice outside you was just an echo of what your soul already knew. And this revelation breaks something in you, the illusion of separation. You are not following the divine. You are remembering that you are part of it. The fracture of destiny becomes the fusion of self, the temptation of power. But enlightenment brings danger. As you realize your inner divinity, a darker thought emerges. If the divine is within me, then I am limitless. You begin to feel it, the subtle pull of control, the intoxicating idea that you no longer need guidance, that you can create your own laws. The boundary between faith and pride grows thin. The line between divine strength and human arrogance begins to blur. You sense it. The most dangerous enemy is not the world's judgment, but the corruption of your own power. So you stop again. You kneel, not in defeat, but in humility. You whisper, if I am part of the divine, let me never forget I am also dust. And for the first time in a long time, peace touches you not as reward, but as reminder. The shattered crown. You wake one morning and realize something profound. Being chosen is not a crown. It is a cross. It does not elevate you above others. It asks you to kneel deeper, love harder, and surrender longer than anyone else. You see now that every fall was sacred, every silence divine, every betrayal an invitation to purify your purpose. You no longer crave the title of chosen, you crave truth, because you finally understand the chosen are not those who never doubt. They are those who walk through doubt without losing their heart. And so you rise again, not as a prophet, not as a leader, but as a soul stripped bare of illusion, walking not toward destiny, but within it. You are no longer following the light. You have become its vessel. If you feel this truth, hit like and subscribe. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign of your divine alignment. Because the fracture was never your failure, it was the door. And now, the chosen one walks not under divine command, but in divine union. The journey is almost complete. But before the light fully returns, one last storm must come, the storm that will test not your faith, but your love. The chosen one, the final silence arrives not as darkness, but as unbearable stillness. No storm, no thunder, no whisper, only the echo of your own heartbeat against the vast emptiness of everything you once believed. You have crossed deserts and climbed mountains. You have lost faith and found it again. You have seen light so pure it blinded you, and shadows so deep they almost swallowed you whole. Yet this silence feels different. It is not the beginning, nor the end. It is the test beyond all tests, the surrender of everything, even purpose itself. You stand at the edge of your own destiny, looking down at the path that led you here. It no longer looks divine. It looks human, fragile, uneven, filled with mistakes and miracles woven into one. And the voice that once guided you does not speak anymore. Because now, you are meant to decide without it. The final trial. You always thought the last challenge would be the hardest climb, the cruelest betrayal, or the deepest loss. But no. The final trial is peace. A peace so still it terrifies you. Because you realize you are no longer being led. You are free. Freedom feels weightless, and yet unbearable. Because to be free means there is no one left to blame, no prophecy to follow, no destiny to chase. You whisper into the stillness, "What am I without the mission?" No answer comes. Only your breath. Only your heartbeat. Only the quiet truth. You were never meant to be defined by purpose. You were meant to become presence. And for the first time, you understand the death of the calling. Everything you once called sacred, every vision, every promise, every divine instruction suddenly feels distant, fading like a dream at dawn. You fight it at first. You cling to the idea that your purpose still matters, that your identity still has meaning. But slowly, gently, the truth unfolds like a soft hand upon your shoulder. Purpose was the path, not the destination. The mission was never about completing something outside of you, it was about awakening something within you. And now that you have become what you once sought, the mission must die for you to live. So you let it go, not in defeat, but in gratitude. You whisper to the universe, "Thank you for the burden. Thank you for the breaking. Thank you for the silence that taught me who I am." And when you release it, something miraculous happens. You feel light. Not the blinding light of revelation, but the gentle glow of truth, the kind that asks for nothing, the kind that simply is. The paradox of surrender. You realize now that surrender is not the end of will, it is the perfection of it. When you no longer resist the flow of existence, you become one with it. You remember all the battles, how you fought against time, doubt, rejection, pain, and you see how every wound was a doorway, every loss was a teacher, every silence was a scripture written in your own soul. You laugh softly, not because it's funny, but because it's beautiful. All the pain, all the confusion, it was never punishment, it was preparation. The divine never asked you to worship it. It asked you to remember you were part of it all along. The union, in this stillness, you begin to feel something strange. It is not joy, not even peace, it is union. The separation between you and the divine dissolves. There is no you praying and no it answering. There is only consciousness breathing through you. The same force that moves the stars moves your hands. The same rhythm that turns seasons turns your thoughts. You are not chosen anymore, you are connected. And that realization changes everything. You no longer seek signs. You no longer chase meaning. You simply move with awareness, speak with truth, love with wholeness. The miracles that once required faith now flow through you naturally, because you have become what you once begged for. The return. You step back into the world. But the world feels different, not because it changed, but because you have. You no longer need to prove your worth or announce your light. You carry it quietly, naturally, like breath. The people who once misunderstood you now feel something they cannot name. They call it calm, they call it wisdom, they call it power. But you know it is simply presence, the divine made visible through ordinary living. You no longer preach, you no longer explain, you live, and your life itself becomes the message. Every word you speak carries silence beneath it. Every action you take carries stillness within it. You have become the still point between chaos and creation, the eternal echo. And one evening, as the sky fades into twilight, the whisper returns not as command, not as comfort, but as reflection. You have become what I always was. You close your eyes, and tears fall not of sorrow, not of joy, but of completion. You understand now that the journey was never about finding God. It was about remembering the divine within your own humanity. You are no longer seeking destiny. You are destiny, unfolding in motion, infinite and unbound. The chosen one has disappeared. Only the awakened one remains. You walk into the night, unafraid of silence, unafraid of darkness. Because you know now silence is not the absence of sound. It is the language of eternity. And as the stars begin to rise, their light feels familiar. You smile, knowing that everything, the storms, the deserts, the doubts, the revelations, was never leading you somewhere else. It was leading you home. If you feel this truth, hit like and subscribe. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign of your divine alignment. Because the journey is not over, it never is. Every ending is only another awakening. And the silence that remains is not empty, it is full of everything you have become. The chosen one is gone. The light remains.